Good morning, friends. Welcome back to Indian Writing in English. Today, we are going to deal with the short story An Astrologer's Day by R.K. Narayanan. To talk about the author, Rasipuram Krishnaswamy Iyer Narayana Swamy, popularly known as R.K. Narayanan, was a leading author of the early Indian English literature, along with Mulkiraj Anand and Raja Rao. In a career spanning over 70 years, R.K. Narayanan published 14 novels, over 200 short stories, a memoir, 2 travel books, innumerable essays, and 2 plays. Most of his novels and short stories were located in a fictional South Indian town of Malgudi. Because of this, he is often compared to regional novelists like Thomas Hardy, William Faulkner, and Gabriel Garcia Marquez. R.K. Narayanan is credited with making India accessible to the Western world through his literature. His brother R.K. Lakshman was the illustrious cartoonist and humorist who created The Common Man, a cartoon character that represented average Indian. An Astrologer's Day, the titular story of R.K. Narayanan's 4th collection of stories, An Astrologer's Day and Other Stories, is a suspense tale of revenge, retribution, fate, and irony. The unnamed astrologer of the story earns his living more by hocus pocus, shrewd guesswork, and an awareness of human psychology. And he don't have any real ability to predict the future. And it combines suspense, realism, and thriller genre. And the narration, it is third-person omniscient narrator. He begins by describing a day in the life of an astrologer. As opposite to astronomers, who are scientists by training and study the physical properties of the universe, astrologers follow the pseudoscience of predicting the future based on the speculative motions of the stars, moons, and other planets. But here, in contrast with those astrologers, we have a fake astrologer. He became an astrologer by chance. And let us look how a day in the life of an astrologer, especially in the case of this astrologer, he lays out all of his professional equipments, including ancient Syrian writing and enigmatic cloth chart. Many people mistake the piercing glare of his eyes for intelligence and their rare ability to tell the future. But what really happens? He's just really good at looking for gullible customers. He also uses makeup and a turban on his head to make himself appear more mystical, and thus he will get a quality source of prophecies. No one can really recognize him. And he selects a proper place to sit. Half the enchantment of the place was due to the fact that it did not have the benefit of municipal lighting. The place was lit up by shop lights. 1 or 2 had hissing gas lights. Some had naked flyers stuck on poles. Some were lit up by old cycle lamps, and 1 or 2, like the astrologers, managed without lights of their own. So this is the place where he sits. He don't have his shop don't have any light of its own. He manages it with the lights of others. Thus, it gets a mystery and a mystic appealing too. And to talk about the prophecy, as R.K. Narayanan says, he knew no more of what was going to happen to others than he knew what was going to happen to himself next minute. He was as much a stranger to the stars as were his innocent customers. Yet he said things which pleased and astonished everyone. That was more a matter of study, practice, and a shrewd guesswork. How he reached in this place? People don't know his history. He had left his village without any previous thought or plan. If he had continued there in his own village, he'll be doing his forefathers' works like tilling the land, living, marrying, and ripening in his cornfield and ancestral home. But that was not to be. He had to leave home. There is a reason. Without telling anyone. And he could not rest till he left it behind a couple of 100 miles. He was running. To a villager, it is a great deal as if an ocean flowed between. So what are the things that he used to deal with his customers? And he will be doing the analysis of mankind's troubles, just like marriage, money, and the tangles of human ties. Long practice had sharpened his perception. Within 5 minutes, he understood what was wrong with the customer. He charged 3 rupees per question, never opened his mouth till the other had spoken for at least 10 minutes. And in between that 10 minutes, he will understand the customer's problems. And he knows that there are certain vague statements or questions that will stroke the ego of any individual. Just like, is there a female who dislikes you? Naturally, there will be some who are not being justly rewarded for your work. Casually it happens. People find you intimidating, though you are a kind on the inside. Each one of us believes that we have a different exterior. As this is a service, the narrator casts no judgment on the astrologer for what he does for a living. And now we are going to the crux of the story. There is a turning point. One day, the astrologer starts to pack up at the end of the day because the neighboring nightstand has turned off the green light for the day. The green light was a vital part of his act. Before he leaves, a stranger comes and saying that he is not a real astrologer. He challenges him. The astrologer says he only charges pennies per question. The man pulls out the equivalent of $1 and says he has some questions for the astrologer. If he answers correctly, he can keep the money with him. The astrologer bargains for a higher price and the duel begins. He asks for 5 rupees and the customer says no, only 8 annas. At last they decides. Okay, he accepts the challenge. As usual, whenever our astrologer starts to talk about usual questions, usual statements, the other man, the customer, says, "Stop, I don't want all that. Shall I succeed in my present search or not? That you have to answer. Otherwise, I will not let you go till you disgorge all your coins." And what is the reaction? The astrologer muttered a few incantations and replied, "All right, I will speak." Now our astrologer started his prophecies. He is starting, not prophecies, he is starting to tell the history of his customer. "You were left for dead, am I right?" "Yeah, it was true." "A knife has passed through you once." "Yeah, yes, it is." And then you were pushed into a well nearby in the field. You were left for dead. Yes, it happened in the case of that customer. He says, I should have been dead if some passerby had not chanced to peep into the well. Then, when I shall get at him, the customer asks with enthusiasm, when I can meet my opponent. He's with his revenge. He want to find his rival who has just put him to death into the well. What is the answer of the astrologer? In the next world, you can only meet your rival in the next world. He died 4 months ago in a far off town. You will never see any more of him. The other groaned on hearing it. The astrologer proceeded, Guru Nanak. So he was astonished. How can you know my name? Yes, I know all other things, Guru Nanak. Listen carefully to what I have to say. Your village is 2 days' journey due to north of this town. Take the next train and be gone. I see once again great danger to your life if you go from home. He took a pinch of sacred ash and held it to him. Rub it in your forehead and go home. Never travel southward again, and you will live to be 100. So that is the prophecy. And why should I leave home again? I was only going away now and then to look for him and to chalk out his life if I met him. So if he got his deserved death, I'm happy. I won't be leaving my home. And how he came to meet his death? He was crushed under a lorry. And that was the astrologer's statement. Usually the revenge is done. The customer is very much satisfied. And by getting such a satisfactory answer, the stranger had gone off into the night after giving the astrologer a handful of coins. And when the astrologer reached his home, it was very late. His wife was waiting, and he gives her all the money. Count them, 12.5 annas. That was his, the money that he got. And she became overjoyed. And then she's just asking, what happened? What was the incident? And he says after the dinner, do you know, a great lord is gone from me today. I thought I had the blood of a man on my hands all these years. That was the reason why I ran away from the home, settled here and married you. He is alive. He is living all these years with such a prick of consciousness. And now we are getting the reason why he left his village, because he is supposed to kill a man, and he thought that he killed him. Now he identified that man. He is alive. He just escaped, and now he was so much relaxed because that stain of blood is not in his hands. And she